Hi, good morning all. Myself Parikshit, and we will be dealing with neighborhood foreign policy in international relations today. And first we have to understand what is a foreign policy. What does it mean by foreign policy? For example, if you take any policy of any government, they are decisions of the government. If there is any public policy, then that is a decision of the government. Like that, there is a foreign policy of this government. Then what is this foreign policy of this government? Foreign policy is a guide it is a guiding tool for the relationship between two countries. It is a guiding tool actually. It is just a guiding tool for the relationship between two countries. Then what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is a delivering system of foreign policy. For example, who are doing it? They are diplomats. The Indian foreign service or diplomats will be there. No, they are the diplomats who are carrying out, who are undertaking this foreign policy they are implementing the foreign policy. Then keeping this apart, we shall discuss with neighborhood foreign policy. That is how India dealt with its neighborhood from its beginning. We shall begin with 1947. 1947. That is the year where India took birth as an independent India. From there, how India was dealing with the neighborhood, there's the question. In 1947, we got to know that this land was divided into East Pakistan, West Pakistan and India. We divided and we got independence, right? We divided and we got independence. That is what we did not divide this territory with a peaceful manner. There was a much angst and there was a resentment amongst themselves that we divided and got independence, and our forefathers were intelligent to know that if at all there is a threat in future, and that would definitely come from neighborhood. Neighborhood is if for example, for that instant, for India, the national security was not just national, it was geopolitical and regional. That is geopolitical and regional. That means when we got divided, by its size and influence, it is naturally a dominant power. It was a regional power in the area. But the threat, if at all the threat is coming in the future, we assumed that we very well knew that the threat would come from the neighborhoods only. And then India neighborhood relations are very much important in the past and the present and the future also. And 1947, the independent India got its first prime minister, that is Jawaharlal Nehru. We shall see about how did India's neighborhood policy was there in 1947 under the government of Jawaharlal Nehru. First, Jawaharlal Nehru, and it is famously called as Indian Monroe Doctrine. Monroe was a US president actually. US president, and he proclaimed that the South American region is all under the influence of United States. Like that, in the same way, Nehru proclaimed that the Indian neighborhood region is there, right? Indian neighborhood region is there. This neighborhood is under the influence of India. It is under the sphere of influence of India. In the same way the Monroe did in United States, Nehru did it in India. That is called as Indian Monroe Doctrine. Why he did this? Was here the neighborhood is an Indian sphere of influence. That means that he limited the foreign interference. That means no foreign country should intervene here because it is India's sphere of interference, India's sphere of influence. That is what is called as Indian Monroe Doctrine under Jawaharlal Nehru. And then later the daughter came. The regimes was, we shall be dealing with the neighborhood foreign policy of important prime ministers, not all of them, okay. And then Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. During their term, what happens was, first thing is they declared that the dispute resolution, if some disputes are happening, then the dispute resolution would happen bilaterally and not internationally. internationally. That means they boycotted international intervention in the dispute resolution, in India's dispute resolution. That means that, for example, POK was an issue. POK was an issue there, and the matter was taken to international organizations, that is United States. But Indira Gandhi at that time proclaimed that the issues with India will be dealt bilaterally, that is between India and Pakistan, and there is no need of international intervention. And there were also military intervention and Sri Lanka, and for example even in Maldives. Sri Lanka, there was an LTTE issue. We shall discuss about it later. What is this LTTE issue and all? But what happens was India was about to, the takeaway is India was about to reassert its regional power in the region. India wants to reassert regional power in the region means that it wants to showcase that it has a dominant power staying in the region. It wants to control the relationships and all. But the neighborhood response was very different. Neighborhood's response was they tilted towards China, and they reduced the economic relationships with India, and then they deliberately took the matters or disputes to the international forums. This was the neighborhood response. And then came P.V. Narasimha Rao. And this foreign policy was hands-off approach. Hands-off approach means that we are taking our hands back. We are not interfering. We will not interfere in domestic and political in matters of your country. We shall not interfere in that. That was P.V. Narasimha Rao's neighborhood foreign policy. And then came I.K. Gujral. You have heard somewhere about Gujral doctrine and all. So what is their Gujral doctrine? Gujral doctrine was related to Indian neighborhood relationships. And then fourth one, I.K. Gujral. That is Gujral doctrine. The features of Gujral doctrine were no reciprocity. He proclaimed that there is no reciprocity. That means that India being a regional power, it should not look for reciprocity with a neighboring country. India is a dominant country, and if it is giving a need of $100 billion or for example $1 million, it should not expect the same with other country. And no South Asian land will be used against any other state. That is one more feature of Gujral doctrine. And building mutual trust, and disputes will be resolved bilaterally but peacefully, not with the military, but peacefully. And the very important thing is also mutual recognition of territorial integrity, and sovereignty. This was I.K. Gujral doctrine regarding the relationships between India and its neighborhood. And then the important changes happened then during Manmohan Singh and Vajpayee. What happened during Manmohan Singh and Vajpayee's regime was regarding neighborhood was they were looking for economic integration of the region. Manmohan Singh and Vajpayee. Economic integration of the region. That is what is SAARC. Actually, Vajpayee is of the opinion that he wanted to develop SAARC on the lines of European Union. Economic interests were well understood by our PMs. Economic integration was the focus area, and to protect territorial integrity, and national interest. And after this, from 2014, many changes have been happened. 2014, Narendra Modi, our PM, this policy was neighborhood first policy. What is this neighborhood first policy? By the name it just indicates that we are giving first priority to the neighborhood. That is what the name indicates. And the thing is, you have to understand the background why this neighborhood first policy is proclaimed. After the background is, after the Cold War, post Cold War, we all know that the West had all the technologies and resources. After the post Cold War, even the countries got liberated also, we are looking to the West for the technologies and resources. So why can't we integrate and we research and we develop? Can't we develop technologies? Can't we develop our own resources? That is why we are looking for the West still. Why? That is because of lack of economic interaction and integration. Economic integration and interaction was not there in the region, and that's why we are still, everybody are looking to the West to import technology, to import resources for the financial aid or something like that. In this background, the neighborhood first policy was proclaimed, and India understood very clearly that to become a development partner, for example, what is happening in Afghanistan, for net development provider and net security provider for what is happening in the Indian Ocean, for example, that Sagar initiative, security and growth for all in the region. To become a net development provider, to become a net security provider, and above all, to become a global power, India has to take care of its neighborhood. That is for sure. To become India to become a global power, it understood that the development of India has to be inconsistent with the development of the region. If India develops alone, think like this, if India develops alone, it becomes a great power. Without the neighboring countries, what they will do? They will be apprehended. They will look at India as a some other day. India will also take us to, they will capture us. So they will somehow interact with the neighboring countries or the other great powers, for example China or US, to pull India's leg back. India, if cannot develop alone, if India wants to become a global leader, then the region has to develop. We understood that. That is what the India's development has to be linked with the region's development. We understood this, and we proclaimed in neighborhood first policy, that is our first priority is given to the neighborhood, India's neighborhood. What are the features of this neighborhood first policy is? The features of India's neighborhood first policy. Features of neighborhood first policy is, first one is trade and investment. In Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping's words, economic development is the hard truth and it is the only truth. That is why wherever you go, what stays at the end is economy. So trade and investment is a major feature of neighborhood first policy. And then second one is connectivity. See, one thing has to be understood very clearly, that connectivity is an inherent dimension in economic diplomacy. If there is no connectivity, there is no economic activity. Economic activity will happen only if there is an connectivity. And hence you can see the Kaladhan multimodal project with Myanmar, then trilateral highways there with India and Thailand and Bangladesh. Connectivity is one of the focus area of neighborhood first policy. And then defense relationship or security relationships are also encouraging. That is example Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. And there are other concerns like regional integration, then mutual trust, building mutual trust, recognizing territorial integrity, security, and in this connectivity also we have developed that SARC satellite, that through the satellite we can even it helps in disaster management and providing telecom services. Unfortunately, the SARC has not been grown that much because of our hostile neighbors. We shall discuss it later. But SARC was a regional integration platform which has an immense potential to carry out the region into a developed region. Unfortunately, it is not happening, and we shall discuss that later too. And these are the neighborhood first policy. Then after studying what is neighborhood first policy and knowing that what are the features of neighborhood first policy, sir, aren't there any roadblocks? Aren't there any problems in neighborhood first policy? Yes, there are. See, the roadblocks with the neighborhood is, first one is there are the diversity. the diversity is there, different cultures are there, and amongst them, among the very important thing is hostility because of history. We got independence with the hostile natures. Pakistan was liberated, and then we fought another war with China too. Neighborhood is hostile, and neighborhood is like, that is not a very stable region. Stability of an Indian neighborhood is very much important for the growth of India. If there is no stability and security, then there is no growth and development. So what are the problems is, one of the major problem is delivery deficit. The diplomats are very, very, very capable of getting the deals done. But while delivering those deals, while finishing those, we lack the capital, foreign capital. The delivery deficit is there, and some allege that there is no specific roadmap in political or commercial, or in political and commercial areas. There is no specific roadmap. But despite these problems, India's first neighborhood first policy is going well. But what could be done to take this neighborhood foreign policy further? What can be done to achieve the targets of neighborhood first policy? Neighborhood first policy, way forward is separate commercial and political diplomacy. It means that there might be political tensions between two countries. The political tension should not halt the commercial relationship of the country. That is, if political tensions are there, let the trade happen. If there are political, let that be, but the trade and commerce happen, because people are suffering because of trade and commerce. Because of political tensions, the people should not suffer. Separating the commercial and political diplomacy, and reworking some treaties and relationships. For example, Bhutan is no more a protectorate of India. Bhutan is an independent country, and it has extensively supported India during the Doklam issue. We have to take that into concern, and we have to rework the relationship, and we have to see Bhutan in an equal partner. And again, Nepal, it was pro-China for a long time, and now in today's news is Sharon Woli has reasserted its power. Actually, the Prachanda, who is pro-India, lost confidence vote in the assembly. So we have to rework these relationships with Nepal. And for example, Sri Lanka, because of its economic crisis, it is moving towards China. We have to rework the relationship between Sri Lanka, and even Maldives too. Maldives, the recent issue was, India Out campaign was happening in Maldives, and we have to address those issues. And the other thing is, as you know, the foreign capital, there is an increase. There has to be an increase in foreign capital. I don't know where will the money come from. And the other two important thing is minilateral coalitions. And para diplomacy. What is minilateral coalitions and para diplomacy? See, minilateral coalitions is wherever we go, China is coming, and they have huge resources. Then how to counter the deep pockets of China? We have designed a very beautiful minilateral coalitions. For example, 2+1 mechanism. 2+1 mechanism is both India and Japan will together develop African nations. Will together work in Africa. That is, we both joining together, we can defeat the China's deep pockets. This is minilateral coalition method, and we can enhance this too. This is already happening, and we can enhance this too in other regions. And para-diplomacy. Para-diplomacy is allowing our states to undertake trade and commerce with the neighboring countries. For example, Northeast can trade with the Northeastern states and ASEAN, and this Tamil Nadu can deal, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and coastal areas, they can deal with Sri Lanka, allowing our states to have a foreign policy and A trade related one, not security and defense hugely that sense. A trade related commerce and issues, they can be undertaken by Indian states with other neighboring countries. So this can be the way forward to improve the neighborhood trust policy. Thank you.